Welcome back to the Alain Goodman show. We are trying Dave again. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hey, Alain. Yeah, I was saying hello. We couldn't hear each other before.
Oh, sorry about that. Are you good to go? Apologies for the time stuff up. I thought it was 7 hours, not 5. Yeah, all good.
It actually works out a lot. It actually works out a lot better because I'm supposed to be somewhere at 9:00. So
okay, cool,
better.
Awesome. No, I just hope I didn't get you in like a work meeting or something.
No. I finished work about an hour ago.
Okay, perfect. So let's start off with basketball because we're both big fans of basketball. I want to start off with Russell Westbrook. Is he the shoo-in for the MVP, do you think?
Well, if I had a vote, it would be LeBron James, although because I think LeBron James is, without question, the best player in basketball and the best player in the world, and I would give it to him every year. But if you're asking me who I think is going to win, yes, Russell Westbrook, the way it's going right now, will get the majority of votes from the writers. And yes, I think right now he is a shoo-in for the MVP, and probably James Harden second and LeBron third, although I would have LeBron first. But yes, he's averaging a triple-double this year, which hasn't been done since Oscar Robertson in 1962.
Was that
unbelievable?
Was that before you were born?
Yeah, that's back before our time. So,
right.
But Oscar Robertson, the big O, one of the great players of all time, and nobody's done it since. Although I talked to a couple of old-timers the other day, Alain, and they said that the NBA didn't start keeping track of block shots until 1973. And they were all telling me, Wilt Chamberlain, easy, averaged 10 blocks a game back in the day, and they're certain that he averaged a triple-double. So he's getting kind of short shrift here.
So this is something that confuses me. Is the most valuable player for the most valuable player award for the best player in the league, or is it for the player whose team would be nothing without them?
Well, it's supposed to be who's the most valuable player to his team.
Which would be Russell Westbrook, wouldn't it?
Well, to me, it would be LeBron, because I think LeBron is more valuable to his team than anybody in the NBA. But you could make a fantastic case for Russell Westbrook. I mean, what he's doing this year without Kevin Durant and the winning record Oklahoma City has, absolutely. I wouldn't argue with anybody who gives it to Russell Westbrook.
So then on the other hand, you mentioned James Harden, who's been moved to point guard and is all of a sudden like the best point guard in the league. Where's his form come from? He didn't show any of this when he was playing at OKC.
You know, this is remarkable, the transformation of James Harden this year. And I was a vocal critic of his entire career, because he was the type of guy in Oklahoma City and in Houston the last couple of years, and he'd pile up a whole bunch of points, and a lot of points against bad teams, and pad his stats, and then he didn't do much in the postseason or in the playoffs, and you know, the ball stopped when it came to him, and he'd dribble it 20 or 30 times, and he'd dominate and hog the ball, and I was never a big fan of his, and he didn't play any defense at all. He didn't even try, but boy, Mike D'Antoni, the new coach at Houston, has done a fantastic job there this year, and he's the guy who introduced really fast-paced basketball back to the NBA.
I'm familiar with D'Antoni, being a Suns fan.
Yeah, and I've always thought he was a great coach, and thought he got a really bad rap with the Knicks and the Lakers. Look what he's doing this year, 24-9, Houston. But when he announced that he was going to move James Harden to point guard, I thought Mike was crazy. What? This is a guy who dominates the ball and pulls too much and never passes. And the transformation has been unbelievable. He's leading the NBA in assists. He's been completely unselfish all year long. He's still scoring 30 points a game, and you can make a great case for MVP for him. And this has been one of the great transformations I've ever seen this year. And all credit to Mike D'Antoni, who saw what was possible here.
So because we do have a little bit more time now, I also want to touch on the new young brigade of the NBA, the rookies and the sophomores, like guys like Antetokounmpo, I think it's pronounced, the three guys at the Timberwolves. Help me out here. Karl Anthony Towns, Wiggins, and Levine, and there's a whole bunch of other guys at Milwaukee as well. There's others like Nerlens Noel, and Joel Embiid as well. Like, is this the best class of rookies and sophomores that you've ever seen?
No. 1984 was that Michael Jordan draft with Charles Barkley and Hakeem Olajuwon all in the same draft was magnificent. John Stockton and Karl Malone were in that draft too. That's one Hall of Famer after another in '84. Then the 2003 draft, I think, had LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, all in the same class, too. So, yeah, I'd say the 84 draft is the best in NBA history, followed by 2003.
Yeah, I've just never seen so many triple-doubles by rookies, double-doubles by rookies, and there's like stats. I've never seen such big stats as long as I've followed the NBA. It's really crazy for some reason.
Yeah, this year is something else, and I think a lot of it has to do with, and again, credit to Mike D'Antoni, because 10 years ago, nobody in the NBA was playing that way that he did with Phoenix, the 7 seconds or less offense. And, the NBA was kind of a walk it up the floor, throw it into the post. Teams were scoring in the 70s, 80s, and 90s every game, and it was kind of a boring brand of basketball. And he revolutionized offense in the NBA. And it's funny, you look, everybody's playing that way now. So that's why the stats are up, and that's why everybody's getting great numbers, because now everybody's shooting a lot of threes, spreading it out, shooting fast, running up and down. So the D'Antoni system is a spread all over the NBA.
Do you think that's a good move for the NBA? Would Adam Silver be happy with it? Adam Silver?
Absolutely. It's a lot more exciting now. There's more points being scored. It's more up and down, and it was like kind of walking through mud back about 10 or 15 years ago. Everybody walking up the court, and it was physical, and it was hard to score, and defenses were just pounding the offense. And now everything's a lot more fast-paced and up and down, and players are much freer. And the other night, Houston shot 61 three-point shots, which was an NBA record for one game, and they made 24 of them, which was another record. And, Coach D'Antoni, he says all the time, I want a dunk, a layup, or a three-point shot. I don't want anything in between. I don't want any of these 15 to 20-foot shots a couple of feet inside the three-point line, because it's not a productive shot. Dunk or layup if it's a 2, otherwise shoot a 3, and that's the way he likes to play.
Is that reliable?
I think so. He's never won a championship in the NBA, although I think those Phoenix Suns team, and you're a Suns fan, you remember back in 06 and 07, I think those teams should have won back-to-back championships. And no matter, in 06, they didn't win the championship because Amari Stoudemire injured his knee and didn't play in the entire playoffs, and they lost in the Western Conference Finals without Stoudemire to Dallas. And I think Phoenix would have won the championship that year against the Miami Heat. And then the next year, remember again in the Western Conference Finals, Amari Stoudemire and Raja Bell get suspended for a game for coming off the bench during a fight, and then the Suns didn't have them for a home game 5 against San Antonio, which would have given them a 3-2 lead. So I think it was bad luck and injuries, and that the reason Phoenix didn't win. You can win with this system. Look at Golden State 2 years ago. After Golden State won the championship, both Alvin Gentry, the assistant coach, and the head coach, Steve Kerr, said this vindicates Mike D'Antoni. They both said it in front of the camera.
Yeah, I've interviewed Tom Leander, who's part of the Phoenix Suns media team. He does the post game and halftime show, and he says in 05, 06, 07, if we didn't have injuries to Raja Bell, to Stoudemire, and I think he might have mentioned someone else as well, then we could have been straight into the NBA Finals, and history would have been completely different.
And the suspension in Game 5 for Bell and Stoudemire, it was 2-2. Phoenix and San Antonio. Game 5 was home in Phoenix, and then Stoudemire and Bell were both suspended for leaving the bench during a fight in Game 4, so they lost that game at home, and then they lost at San Antonio in 6. I think they win that series if not for the suspension. So I think it's more injuries than bad luck. Absolutely you can win playing with that style.
And we haven't been the same since, but that's another story.
Yeah. New owner, bad management, bad drafts. It's all been downhill since D'Antoni left and Steve Nash.
Now, I want to touch on the Australians, because we do have a lot of Australians in the NBA. Now, Joe Ingles has the highest three-point percentage for the Utah Jazz. Patty Mills is getting a lot of minutes off the bench and is tearing the NBA to shreds. I've heard a little bit about Dellavedova. Haven't heard much about Andrew Baines. His name's not what's his name? Aaron Baines. Aaron Baines. And Andrew Bogut has now offered to come off the bench for Dallas so they can match up better against other teams. How have you seen the Australians performing?
And Matthew Dellavedova is playing well for Milwaukee as well. There's a guy, you're talking about good timing. The salary cap this last offseason went up almost double because of the new TV contract, and he happened to be a free agent. So now he's got a $10 million a year contract, a backup point guard for Cleveland. The timing was, anybody who was a free agent last summer got independently wealthy that with the money they were throwing around. So I'm sure Delhi didn't want to leave the Cavaliers in that World Championship. But, when you go from, $2 or $3 million to $10 million a year and a chance to start, I don't think he had much choice. So he's with the Milwaukee Bucks. And they're a good young team as well. You mentioned Jabari Parker and the Greek Freak playing center there, and now Delhi. So
and Thon Maker off the bench as well, who's another Australian.
Yeah. The 19-year-old kid from Perth, off the bench, the 7-footer. And then Dante Exum was playing pretty well. He was starting the last couple of weeks for Utah before he got an injury. And Ben Simmons, we're hoping that he's going to be playing here before the end of the year with the Philadelphia 76ers. So hopefully he'll be out there playing as well.
And we just missed out on a medal in the Olympics. You could say we choked, but we came up against Spain and just got... No, not Spain, Serbia, and just got slaughtered.
And Alain, we forgot the greatest Australian of them all, Kyrie Irving. We forgot about him.
He's dead to me, completely dead to me. No, I'm kidding.
I think he's the greatest Australian player of all time right now. I mean, he's an elite NBA. What do you think? If he plays for the Boomers in the Olympics last summer, do they win the gold medal? There's a real chance.
Would you say gold medal? Because we've got Patty Mills and Dellavedova. Kyrie Irving would obviously start, but it would change the whole rotation to have another guard there, because we do have a lot of talls that come into the Boomers that play all around the world. Dave Anderson's tall, Joe Ingles is tall, Bogut, Baines, Bairstow, who's now playing here. I think he might be injured. But having that extra guard, it would give us a lot more pace. But against the bigger teams like Serbia, would we match up well with that extra guard?
Oh, yeah, Irving is an elite NBA player, top 10 of the NBA. He's the best clutch player in the league right now. Game 7 against Golden State last year, he makes that 3 to win the series, and that Christmas Day game against Golden State, he made 2 huge plays to win the game for Cleveland. Yeah, you almost beat us in the preliminary round in Australia and the United States. That was a tight game that went right down to the wire. I think you had Kyrie to that team. I think they at least medal, if you had him.
Did Kyrie play for the American team?
No, remember he sat out this summer because he was hurt in the final, and the Warriors wanted him to rest. So LeBron didn't play, and Steph Curry didn't play. So
you sound very passionate about Kyrie Irving. Is he bringing back memories of Kobe Bryant in his prime for you, Dave?
No, not that good, not yet. But my goodness, he is. He is making clutch play after clutch play, and the way he can handle and create for himself is, I think he might be top 5 now in the NBA. He's closing in. He's playing great so far this year. And I was on with Finey at SCN a couple of weeks ago, and I said, he was born in Melbourne and only lived there till he was 3. Is he Australian? He said, "We claim him, baby. He's ours. We claim him."
Yeah, if only he'd be happy to come back. He said he might come back one day, but we'll see. It's a bold move to move away from the NBA when you're that good.
And FIBA has that silly rule where you can only play for one country throughout the course of your Olympic career. So even if he did want to play for the Boomers at a later date, he can't do it because he played for Team USA. And remember, Steve Nash wanted to play for England, and they wouldn't let him do it. And so I think that's a silly rule. 4 years down the road, if you want to play for a different country, you should be allowed to. So
Chris Kaman never played for the Americans?
No, not in the Olympic team, no.
He probably wasn't good enough anyway.
Funny, no, not good enough. And plus, he'd never been to Germany, and his parents had never been to Germany in their lives, but one of his grandparents was born there, so Germany said, "That's good enough. We'll take you. You got German citizenship."
It's like a draft kind of thing. Now, let's move on to your predictions for the year. Championship, MVP, Defensive Player, Rookie of the Year. Who have you got going? You've mentioned Westbrook is almost a shoo-in. He's virtually a shoo-in.
I'd say Westbrook's going to win the MVP. My vote will go to LeBron, but if you're asking me who's going to get the vote and who's going to win it, it's going to be Russell Westbrook.
If you were going to put $1,000 on it, who would you put it on?
Russell Westbrook. Okay. With James Harden, though, closing in, the close second. He's been so great this year, and there's still half a season to go, so Harden could still win it as well.
And championship?
I'm going Golden State, although because adding Kevin Durant this year, they seem to have gotten it, and they're such an offensive machine right now. They're not as good defensively as they were last year without Andrew Bogut and Festus Ezeli guarding the rim, but that is such a potent group of 4 guys, and when they're to beat them 4 times in 7 games is going to be quite. You can beat them once, every once in a while, but to beat them 4 times in 2 weeks, maybe Cleveland can do it again. Who knows? Maybe I think San Antonio is the only team in the West that can stop them potentially, but certainly the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to come out of the East without any problem and be in the finals again. And I'd say Golden State probably a 75 to 80% chance, and maybe the Spurs a 20% chance. But I like Golden State to get revenge this year.
So you wouldn't give Houston a chance?
Well, they're a dangerous team. They got 140 on the Clippers the other night. And I just, they play the exact same way that Golden State plays. Same style, same spread offense, but their players just aren't as good. So I just don't think they're good enough. I don't think they can beat the Warriors 4 times in 7 games playing the exact same style of basketball the Warriors play, because the talent levels are just the same with Houston and Golden State. You're dealing with Steph and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Kevin Durant. Houston just doesn't, as great as James Harden is, they don't have that kind of firepower to match him.
And the other team that's always there but has never quite got over the line is the Clippers. And you don't think they're going to have a chance? Is Blake Griffin going to come back before the end of the season?
Yeah, he's supposed to, and I know Chris Paul sat out another game that Houston game the other night with a bad hamstring, and yeah, Blake's supposed to be back, and they said 6 to 8 weeks when he got hurt a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, he'll be back, and the Clippers are a really good team. You've got 2 All-Stars, and Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. You've got probably the best defensive center and best rebounder in the NBA, and shot blocker, and DeAndre Jordan. But, the Clippers are what they are. I mean, every year they're really good in the regular season, and they flame out come playoff time, and they never get past the second round. And just big problem is, Blake has trouble at the free throw line, and DeAndre Jordan, see, as good as he is so horrible at the free throw line. You got to get him out of there in the fourth quarter because teams start fouling intentionally, and he just kills the team. As good as he is, and I think it's really guys like DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard and Andre Drummond in Detroit, who's a 35% free throw shooter. I just think these guys are selfish, not getting any better. You look, there's a kid with the Houston Rockets right now. His name is Chinanu Onuaku.
Oh, I saw a video of him online.
Yes, he's shooting his free throws granny style, underhanded, and he said, I shoved my pride aside. I don't care about people laughing at me. I just want to get better. He's gone from 40% to 70% since he was in college. I mean, shooting them Rick Barry style. I mean, why not? I mean, these guys are shoot them underhand. All that matters is that you make them. They're more worried about their friends laughing at them than they are about winning games. It's selfish.
Do they not have a coach?
Hey, Alain, isn't it more embarrassing to have guys jumping on your back in the fourth quarter and fouling you on purpose and then having to go out of the game and sit because you can't make... To me, that's a lot more embarrassing than shooting them underhanded.
I'd assume so, but then again, they get coached. Wouldn't you have the coaches saying, look, DeAndre, have 100 free throws before you go home? Before you leave training, have 100 free throws, and we'll do that a couple of times this week, a few times next week, and we'll see what happens. Like, why wouldn't you just do that?
It's just the mechanics. Supposedly he does, but the mechanics are bad. They're just never going to get any better. I mean, they have specialists, they have coaches coming in, they shoot a whole bunch of practice. Look at Dwight Howard his whole career, Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan. Look at Shaq, 50%. He was a horrible free throw shooter, and it's just, when you're a big guy like that with big hands and you bring the ball over your head, and there's a lot of problems in your mechanics. It's like a bad golf swing. Just no matter how much you practice, you're not going to get better, but when you shoot them underhand, it's just a flick of the wrist. It eliminates all those bad habits and bringing the ball over your head and your elbow sticking out and maybe not having good balance with your feet. And you just take a couple of breaths and just flick with the wrist. And, the great Rick Barry, before our time, Alain, one of the great NBA players ever, was a 90% career free throw shooter, and he shot him underhand his whole career. And he's on my show a lot, as a guest. And he always says, I'll fly anywhere. I'll work with these guys on my dime. And they don't want to do it. It's incredible how selfish these. Andre Drummond sent out a tweet last season, and he said, "Let me state this right now," and then he put it in capital letters: "I will never shoot free throws underhanded, never." And to me, if I were a teammate or a coach or the owner of that team, I'd be upset with him. What do you mean never? You got to sit on the bench in the fourth quarter. You're costing us games. You're being selfish. You'll shoot him underhand. You'll damn well shoot him underhand, and we're bringing Rick Barry in here to start working with you.
In Shaq's defense, 50% is a lot better than 35%.
Yeah, but, and he could have been can you imagine if Shaq were an 80% free throw shooter? It was devastating. I mean, if you couldn't foul him, if he just made all the, they would have had to shut the league down. If he were a great free throw shooter, and he was never in really good shape throughout his career. He was always overweight and out of shape too. But wow, when he was at LSU in college, Rick Barry went there and worked with him on the underhand free throws, and Rick told me he had him up to make an 8 out of 10 in practice. He had him really doing well, and then Shaq finally told him, "I can't do it. Everybody will laugh at me. I can't shoot him Gaddy style. I won't do it." So again, he'd rather lose games than improve himself at the free throw line. It's amazing to me.
In his defense, he did win like 5 or 6 championships.
Yeah, and I think if he were in better physical condition when he played, and he was a good free throw shooter, he could have won 10. I think. The league's never seen anybody like him, that big and that strong and that dominant. And maybe that's God's way of evening things out, because Shaq was lazy with his conditioning. So if God had given Shaq a really good work ethic and made him a good free throw shooter, they might have had to shut the league down. So maybe that's a way of balancing things out.
Is Dirk Nowitzki a good free throw shooter?
Is that what? I'm sorry, Alain?
Is Dirk Nowitzki a good free throw shooter?
Was who a good free throw shooter?
Is Dirk Nowitzki a good free throw shooter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's 80-90%. Kareem was 75-80 as well. Wilt was a horrible free throw shooter, and so was Bill Walton. They were both 50%. Wilt went to the underhand style back in the 60s, too. He shot him granny style, and he improved about 10 or 15%, but he said the same thing. I don't want to do it anymore.
And before we finish up on the NBA, Craig Sager unfortunately lost his battle with leukemia. Yeah. Did you ever work with him or have a chat to him?
Absolutely. What a great guy. I never met anybody who didn't like him. Everybody with the loud coats and the sidelines, and everybody knew who he was. That was his trademark, and he was a great guy. The players loved him. You see all the tributes, and a lot of players went to his funeral and media members. So he was a fantastic guy and great for the league. And like I said, I never met anybody who had a bad thing to say about him. And you can't say that about too many people you meet.
Did you have whenever I've asked you about different celebrities who have passed away, you've always got a story. Do you have a Craig Sager story? This was years ago when Staples Center first opened. He was wearing one of those loud jackets, and he was doing an interview. He was interviewing one of the Lakers players before the game. And, Shaq, the jokester and the prankster that Shaq is, they were right in the middle of an interview on TNT, and Shaq snuck up behind him and hit him in the face with a pie while the camera was on. So I never forgot that about Craig Sager. Now, before I want to talk a tiny bit about the Olympics, and then we're going to go into other news. But first, we've got to take a break. So are you happy to stay on the line, Dave?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. We'll be right back after this on the Alain Goodman Show. You're listening to 88.3 Southern FM. It's 22 minutes to 3. Welcome back to the Alain Goodman Show, and we've still got Dave on the line. We've got plenty more to get through as fast as we can, because Dave obviously has a life of his own, and it's New Year's Eve. He wants to go out and party, so we'll run through this as fast as we can.
Yeah, save this tape. It's the last time I'll be sober tonight after we leave, because it's New Year's Eve here in the States coming up in less than 5 hours. We'll be hitting the 2017.
Yes. So lucky I stuffed up the time difference, hey, and got you a little bit earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we did have...
You might have had to call the police station in a couple of hours to find you then, so good thing you called now.
Yeah, I don't think 911 works here without the area code. It just goes through to our police station, so you might have been on your own there.
Absolutely.
Now, we also had an Olympic Games in 2016, and I had you on the show mid-last year, and we talked a bit about the Olympics. You thought they were going to be good, even though there was a lot going on beforehand. There was a lot going wrong beforehand. Were you happy with how the Olympics turned out?
Absolutely. Usain Bolt pulled off the triple, which has never happened before, where you win the 100, the 200, and the 4x100 relay. He did it 3 Olympics in a row. Nobody else has ever done it twice before, which was incredible. And Michael Phelps again comes back and wins I don't know, what's he up to now, like 100 goals or something ridiculous. and the USA women's gymnastics team did great things. And, there were some great moments from countries all over the world at the Olympics. I thought they were a great success.
And you've touched on my next question a little bit as well. Bolt versus Phelps, who's greater? Or is it apples versus oranges?
Usain Bolt gets my vote. He's the greatest Olympian of all time. What he's done, the 100, 200 relay, triple, 3 Olympics in a row is absolutely unprecedented. And I think it's an unfair comparison when you go gold medal to gold medal because swimmers have so many opportunities more to win golds. There's so many more events and backstrokes and relays and breaststrokes and freestyle and Usain Bolt just doesn't have the opportunity to win all those gold medals the way Michael Phelps does. I mean, they have the 100-meter breaststroke, the 102-meter, the 104-meter. They've got relays. They got backstrokes, breaststrokes.
They got individual relays, individual medleys.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's ridiculous. It's too many medals. I mean, I guess they're going to have to maybe if track and field was like swimming. They could have an event, the 100 meters running backwards, the 100
skipping,
meters hopping on one foot,
100 meters
hopping
skip,
on one foot, skipping, hopping, maybe with a blindfold on. If you want to make it like swimming, how about having some different, instead of running backwards, running with your arms in the air.
Or the classic egg and spoon race or 3-legged race.
Yeah, a 3-legged race and the egg and spoon race. Yeah, make it like swimming. Like I said, running backwards, hopping on one foot. That would be the equivalent of swimming then.
Although Michael Phelps has competed in, I think, 1 or 2 more Olympic Games than Usain Bolt, so he has had a longer career.
And taking nothing away from, we're having a lot of fun joking around here. Michael Phelps is one of the great Olympians of all time, and it's I think 19 gold medals, but I just have Usain Bolt ahead of him. Just for my money, Usain Bolt is the greatest Olympic athlete I've ever seen. So I enjoy track and field more than I do swimming. Maybe I'm prejudiced, and I just think they're giving away gold medals in swimming like Cupid dolls. There's too many events. And Usain, no matter what Usain Bolt does, he can never possibly catch up with Phelps' medal count because there aren't as many events.
Now, I'll be honest, I don't know much about NFL, baseball, or ice hockey, so we are going to skip those sports, and we're going to go on to this 2016...
Thank you.
And you've probably been talking about hockey, sport all morning anyway. So we're going to go on...
No hockey, please.
You're not a fan of hockey?
No, I know nothing about hockey. I never watched it. I don't care.
Right, so that's the one sport. Every sports journalist or sports... expert has one sport they don't like. So hockey's yours, yeah?
Hockey, and I think hockey is the majority of American sports, but they don't follow. If you look at the television ratings and the interest in hockey is almost zero interest and zero ratings here in the States. There's a really hardcore group of hockey fans who just love the sport, and they fill the arenas up, and it gives you the impression that there's a lot more than there really are, but there's almost no interest in hockey in the United States.
That's a little sad, because it is exciting. There are fights as well, and I've heard the saying, you go to a fight and maybe a hockey match will break out. Is it that no one follows it?
It's fun to watch it in person, to go to a game. And I'll tell you what, there's more pretty girls at a hockey game than any other sport, too, so that's another reason to go. It's unbelievable. But watching it on television, it just doesn't translate to television. That's another big problem with hockey. That you never see the puck going in the net. You have no idea when somebody scores. So that's another problem. It doesn't translate well to television.
So I want to move on to the 2016 celebrity deaths. There were a lot of them, a surprising amount of them. I'll give you a short list that I made up of ones that I'm familiar with. Carrie Fisher, George Michael, David Bowie, Gary Shandling, Doris Roberts, Prince, Alan Rickman, Muhammad Ali, which will be close to your heart, George Martin, Ronnie Corbett, Gene Wilder, Arnold Palmer, Max Walker, who's an Australian cricketer and footballing icon, Leonard Cohen, Andrew Sachs from Fawlty Towers, Alan Thicke, Zsa Zsa Gabor, who was 99, Christina Grimmie, Glenn Fry, and Debbie Reynolds. Are you surprised? And
my mother passed away on December 4th, so this month, so add her to that list too, Alain.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Have you had your time to grieve?
Oh, absolutely. She was 95 years old. She lived a great life, and she's been sick. So, I just try to remember the good times here. And by the way, 95, yeah.
Yeah,
good run.
my grandfather's 96, so maybe you've got good genes there, Dave. Maybe you've still got another 50 years left.
You never know. You might be adding me to that celebrity death list tonight when I start drinking here on New Year's Eve. So
don't say that. I want to come and see you do at least one show when I get to America.
All right, sure.
So, who on that list hit you hardest? And do you have any stories from any of them that being a sports journalist and a radio broadcaster, that have you got any stories from them? I know you met Prince in a male toilet, so any more stories like that?
Yeah, that's funny. I was at the Super Bowl in Miami about 10 years ago, doing the show from Radio Row in the convention center, and then I had to go to the bathroom between segments, and there was two big, huge bodyguards blocking the door, and they wouldn't let me in. And I was hopping like on one foot from one foot to the next. I had to go, and then finally the door opened, and Prince walked out, and he looked at me and said, "Sorry, man." So I tell people I met him when we had a great conversation. He said, "Sorry, man," and kept going. So I guess he wanted that bathroom to himself. But the one that meant the most to me here was Muhammad Ali. He was a real hero of mine when I was a kid. And I remember one time, when I was, this was in the late 70s, early 80s. I was a kid, and my dad was driving me around Los Angeles. And we pulled up at a stoplight next to a Stutz Bearcat, a real expensive car. And there in the driver's side was Muhammad Ali. I said, "Oh, my God." I said, "Dad, look who's driving the car over there right next to us at a red light," and it was Ali. And it's funny. I raised my fist up. I was about 13 or 14, and I raised my fist in the air, and his window was down. I said, "I can whip you, Ali." And he looked at me and gave me like a dirty look and raised his fist up and said, "Don't try it, boy," and then kept driving. I never forget it.
Have you got any other stories from anyone on that list?
Let me see. I told you the Prince story. I never met Zsa Zsa Gabor or any George Michael.
Gary Shandling or Carrie Fisher?
Never met Gary. Never met either one of them or Debbie Reynolds.
Arnold Palmer?
Yeah, I did meet Arnold Palmer. Yeah, I met him at the L.A. Riviera Country Club in L.A. where they have the L.A. Open every year. I met him. I did an interview with him about 15 years ago. Nice guy. You know, I don't have any really funny stories to tell, but he sat down at the table and had a nice little chat about golf. He was a good guy. I liked him a lot.
Or Alan Thicke. Debbie Reynolds might have been a little bit before your time. Alan Thicke would have been right when you were growing up or into your early adulthood. He would have been on TV. Yeah,
he was. They had a show here in America called Thick of the Night. That's the first time I ever saw him, where he hosted a late night studio audience talk variety show, and that's where I first saw him. And then he had a really successful television series that ran for about 10 years here. So then he became world famous when that was on.
So were you surprised? Like, there were media reports everywhere that 2016 has been like the year of celebrity deaths. Were you surprised?
Yeah.
Did you believe that as well? Like, do you remember a year that has been so bad to Hollywood?
I never really thought about it until you read that list to me. That's a lot of big names on there.
And that's only the ones that I know of, like that I knew who they are.
Yeah, that's some famous people, led by Muhammad Ali and Prince, and I think this might be more than I've ever noticed in my lifetime. Now that you think about it, now that I hear that list.
And people have been saying, why them? Why not the Kardashians? Why not Kanye West? And it's almost cruel. Like,
yeah, you say something like that, you're dealing with karma. Bolt of lightning might hit you coming down from the sky. So you want to avoid saying stuff like that. You're wishing death on anybody.
Exactly. I was going to say before, maybe James Harden is playing so well because he's dropped the Kardashians.
Well, you see, he knew when to get out. Smart guy, because he was dating. Chloe's with Tristan Thompson now with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I heard that. And Chris bought him this amazing watch for Christmas, so now he's stuck.
Yeah, he needs to get out. I mean, Reggie Bush, the NFL player, was dating Kim, and he got out in time. But poor Chris Humphries, he married Kim Kardashian, and his life was almost ruined. Look what happened to Lamar Odom. When he was with Chloe, he almost died. Did
he have those issues before he married Chloe, though?
No, not that I know of. Not that bad. I mean, I'd never known him to be arrested for drugs or anything. Look at Bruce Jenner, Olympic champion, American hero on the Wheaties box. You know, he was the man every woman wanted and every man wanted to be back in the day. And now he's running around in a dress and makeup, and he's a woman after being tied up with that Kardashian family all these years. But that's why we call it the curse of the Kardashians here in America. Stay away. Stay away from those women.
So it's that that's actually a thing, Dave. You might not want to get too drunk tonight. You never know where you could end up.
Yeah, wind up. You'll see pictures of me tomorrow morning running off to Vegas, marrying one of the Kardashians tonight. You never know.
And before we go to, actually, we might take a quick break first, because I know Donald Trump is a big topic, and I know you're going to have a lot to say about that. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back right after this with Dave Smith here on the Alain Goodman Show at 8 minutes to 3. Welcome back to the Alain Goodman Show, Dave. I've just been scrolling Facebook in the break, and I came across a post from the NBA on ESPN. James Harden just tied Wilt Chamberlain for most points in a triple-double in NBA history. 53 points, 16 rebounds, 17 assists.
Oh, my God. Well, I think I changed my mind about the MVP. That is a ridiculous number. Wow. I hadn't heard about that. 53, 17, and 16?
53 points, 16 rebounds, 17 assists. That's insane. How does he even get that productivity? Like, that's half a team's winning score.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the offense they run. Mike D'Antoni again. You know, just his philosophy is 7 seconds or less. He wants a shot up within 7 seconds when they get possession, and he likes lots of threes. So, you know, you got to get inflated numbers when you play that type of offense. And that is amazing.
That's not only half a team's score. He assisted on every other point of the other half that he didn't score. That's it. He's involved in every single play. That's not normal.
Did they win the game?
It doesn't say. I'm just on Facebook. It doesn't say if they won. I'm assuming they won. Surely they won. You can't lose from that, can you?
I mean, 53 points and then with, 16 assists, you said? So
16 rebounds, 17 assists. So that's at least another 35 points right there.
Well, and then plus probably half of those were threes the way the Rockets play. So he's probably responsible. He's responsible for over 100 points by himself tonight, then.
He's responsible for their whole score. Like, he must have played 42 minutes, however, 12, 20, 40, 42, 48 minutes. He must have played the whole game.
Must have been a close game. You score that much and have that many rebounds and assists, yeah.
So let's go back. And the other person that died that I was kind of sad about was Natalie Colt. She died on the last day of 2015. I just played a song from her earlier on in the show. So she was someone, that I thought was a really good singer that, also passed away. So it's just been a really bad run.
Well, my mother and father loved Nat King Cole, her father. They have all his albums, and they played it constantly when I was growing up.
Dave, you've gone a bit muffled. Can you take a step to your left?
How's this? Is that better?
That's a lot better.
Okay.
So, Donald Trump moves into the White House in about 20 days. What are going to be the first 3 things on his agenda?
Well, hopefully he keeps his word about what he said he was going to do. Number one, he's going to build a wall, along that southern border to help put a stop to, illegal immigration and the massive amounts of drugs that come across the border, and a huge amount of terrorists from the Middle East get into the country over that Mexican border because it's easy to walk across and it's easy to get through down there. So hopefully that gets done and he keeps that campaign promise. Declaring war on ISIS and going after them and killing terrorists overseas, hopefully he comes through on that one as well and takes control of this situation. And number 3, energy independence. He said he's going to build the Keystone Pipeline that goes from Canada down to Texas, and we've got major reserves of oil that we have found over the last 5 or 10 years, and we have more oil there than they do in Saudi Arabia. So it would create tens of thousands of union jobs of people working on that Keystone Pipeline, maybe 100,000 jobs, and also we wouldn't have to buy oil from Saudi Arabia or Middle Eastern countries anymore. We could cut them off at the knees. And so I think all of that is a win-win if he keeps his campaign promises.
There's a few things about this whole ordeal that stood out to me. I talked to you early last year, and you said you were a Donald Trump supporter, and you'd never seen anything like this election with all the hype and all the people going out there to vote, the amount of people voting. And the things that stood out to me are that even though Donald Trump won supposedly fairly and squarely, there were still people trying to get a recount or trying to get Hillary Clinton back into power and trying to ignore what the voters said or what the Electoral College said. There's a whole argument about the Electoral College as well. And the other thing that surprised me was I think it proved that celebrities don't have as much power as they think they do.
Oh, just the opposite. I mean, we hate the celebrities when they talk politics, and we want them to shut the hell up, and it does more harm than good when they talk. And he won the election fair and square. He got 306 electoral votes, and you only need 270. And, if you look at and he won, I think, 31 states out of 50. And when you look at the counties, when you break it down by county in the United States, it was almost all red. I mean, he pretty much swept the country. The areas where he didn't win and where Hillary Clinton got a lot of votes was New York and California. So that's probably why she won the popular vote, because she had a huge advantage in the two most popular states. But, I mean, I don't want New York and California electing our president every 4 years. I want it to be a nationwide election where every state has a say in it, which is why I'm a big fan of the Electoral College, and hopefully we keep it.
Do you, being someone that's in the media, how have you seen the fallout, from the day he was elected and then all these people coming out and saying, he's not my president, he'll never be my president? How do you see it as someone that's deeply involved in the media?
Well, the majority of the country, I think, is very happy that he was elected, and we were tired of some of the things that have gone on the last 8 years. And finally, somebody who's bold and somebody who's going to take charge, and a businessman in the White House, and he's already created, I think 100,000 jobs already with companies staying in America and not moving now. And a Japanese banker just announced that he's going to spend $50 billion now in America and create 50,000 new jobs here now that Donald Trump's been elected. And, the corporate income tax rate, he wants to lower from 35 to 15%, which will be fantastic for business and hiring. And he also wants to eliminate a lot of regulations on business, which will, I think, bring corporations and factories back. We've lost 70,000 factories here in America in the last 8 years that have gone overseas. He wants to bring all of them back, and more power to him if he can do it. And as far as the protesters, I think they're in the minority. The media here in America, I don't know what it's like in Australia, Alain, but the media here in America is really far left liberal, about 99% of them. So almost all the stories they print are going to skew toward their side and make it look like everybody hates Donald Trump and focus on the protesters instead of focusing on anything positive. So I think it creates a false narrative. And by the way, I think people now hate the media more than the celebrities here in the United States. And, the media was saying, but remember, I told you Trump was going to win the election beforehand when nobody else thought he would, Elaine, the last time I was on with you. And Hillary's going to win in a landslide. There's no contest. She's going to win, blah, 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 blah. And they were wrong from the get-go, right from the start. Absolutely wrong. This was a movement in the United States. This was people tired of politicians and people tired of business as usual, getting an outsider in there and a businessman and somebody who can actually get things done. That's what we wanted, and it's interesting. The union vote here in America, Elaine, is huge for the Democratic Party every 4 years. This time, the union vote, Hillary only won the union vote by 8 percentage points this year, which is the lowest ever. Trump got a lot of union votes because I think a lot of union people are thinking in their best interest and thinking about new jobs and job creation here. He had higher percentages in the black vote, higher in the Hispanic vote than Mitt Romney in 2012. He got triple the amount of the Muslim vote than Mitt Romney did in 2012, and he got 53% of women here. So I think the narrative that he's sexist and anti-women and racist, then why did he get 52% of women, and why were his numbers up significantly among blacks and Hispanics? It's not true what people are saying about it.
Now, there's two more points I want to touch on with Donald Trump before we move on to our next topic. The first one is Barack Obama's getting very angry at Russia, and he's trying to ruin America's relationship with Russia because he suspects that Russia had an impact on the election. And Putin has come out and said he's a supporter of Donald Trump. Do you think that'll affect America's relationship with Russia? Does America have a good relationship with Russia?
I think we'll have a good relationship once Donald Trump is inaugurated on January 20th. I think a lot of this is the Democratic Party, Barack Obama and Hillary and the media we have here just cannot believe and cannot accept and cannot fathom the fact that they lost. They were so certain they were going to win, and they're trying to look for any excuse or any reason why they didn't. You know, the real reason is it was a rejection of Hillary Clinton, and people just don't like her, even Democrats. She's not very likable, and a lot of Democrats stayed home in this election and didn't vote at all. And so I think it was kind of a rejection of Barack Obama's policies in the last 8 years and a total rejection of Hillary Clinton and what she wanted to do for the country. And I think because they're just so shocked and can't believe they lost, they want to blame anything. So now this stuff about the Russian hacking influenced the election. I don't really believe any of that. You know, the Chinese have tried to hack us, the Russians have tried to hack us, the Israelis, Guccifer from Romania. They're just going to face the reality that this was a rejection of Hillary Clinton and a rejection of her policy and what she wanted to do. That's why she lost. With nothing else other than that.
And the other thing is gun violence. It's been a bit quiet on the gun violence front lately, which is good. But do you think Trump will do anything to try and lower the gun violence rates?
Well, he's a strong supporter of the Second Amendment and a strong supporter of gun owners' rights. So I don't think there's going to be any gun control under a Donald Trump regime, and I don't think there should be. When you look at the gun violence, it's mostly by criminals and mostly by people who have guns illegally, so buy them on the black market. So, criminals are going to wind up with guns anyway, no matter what kind of laws you have. But he's a big believer in the Second Amendment, and I think the best thing you can do to stop violence and gun violence is law and order, which he has promised here. The people are going to get arrested, people are going to get prison sentences, and there's going to be law and order back again. The police departments all over the country are just disheartened and depressed, and they haven't been allowed to be able to do their jobs in a long time. So I think if we get law and order back on the streets and get some control here, I think that would do a lot to reduce the gun violence.
How come you don't agree with the rest of the media, even though you're in the media? you have a very different opinion from the rest of the media that I've read or listened to on the radio or seen on TV in America.
Well, you might be reading the wrong media and watching the wrong television in that way, but I just think, Alain, I think I've got to be the greatest prognosticator and the greatest political analyst ever, because I was right and everybody else was wrong in the media. I was saying because I could feel, the ground. It was kind of like Ronald Reagan in 1980. There was a groundswell and there was a movement when he ran. And about a year and a half ago, I've got a lot of union members in my family who have been voting Democrat forever because they're union members, and all of them were saying, we're voting Trump this time. We're voting, he's going to create jobs. He's going to, bring jobs back from overseas. And I said, wow, I couldn't. And then he was getting 35, 40, 45,000 people at his rallies all over the country, and Hillary couldn't fill a coffee house. I mean, she wasn't getting 100 people there. And I'm saying, I said he is going to win, and the polls were all wrong. You see, the media skews the polls and makes it look like something it's not. And the fact was, when you take a poll, it's based on likely voters, and likely voters mean people that voted in the last election and the election before that. There are millions of people in America, Alain, who haven't voted in 15 or 20 years because they've been frustrated. And you saw these rallies. These are people who were not counted in the polls, and nobody took account of them. And I said that they're going to show up and they're going to march to those polls, and Donald Trump's going to win this election. And I was right. It was a tsunami at the polls.
So you're confident of a smooth transition to the Trump era on January 20?
Well, the media is going to be after him, both barrels. I mean, every day of his presidency, and it's going to be character assassination and nothing but negative stories, and the celebrities are going to be after him. But you know what? He's got this. If he keeps his promises, he's got the overwhelming support of the American people. If he gets that Keystone Pipeline built, if he controls our southern border with Mexico, and he wants to put a temporary ban on Muslim immigration as well until we can figure it out and vet everybody who's coming in and just make sure we know who's coming into the country and who's not, which I think, it's not a bad idea, because ISIS is now bragging that they've infiltrated the refugee population with their soldiers. So, they could be sneaking, thousands of people in here. We don't even know who they are. So we got to get control of this situation and get our borders controlled. And I know in Australia, Alain, You can't just walk in there illegally and put your feet on the ground and then stay there permanently, can you? And get government benefits and a government check and schooling and free hospital care. And I don't think it works that way in Australia.
If you're really, if you really try hard, you can. But no, but we do try and stop that. We do have a immigration policy, and we have a place offshore that we put people that have tried to come here illegally while we process them and see if they are legit as well. And there's a whole debate over whether that's whether they're treated correctly and whether they're treated humanely and everything like that. But we do try.
Well, yeah, and you've got to have control of your borders if you're going to be a country. I mean, medicine in Australia, if thousands and thousands of people were coming into the country every day and allowed to stay, it's a real problem. I mean, you don't have really countries bordering you. It's a different situation than we have with Mexico in the south and Canada on the north. But I just don't think you can permit, now we've got close to 30 million people, for some estimates, in the country illegally now in the United States. And if you don't know who they are or where they came from, what their names are, it's a problem trying to track them and find out who they really are.
Let me just say this: if you get drunk tonight and you pull a Chris Brown, or you try and bring a dog, or you try and bring a dog into Australia, you won't be allowed in. If you do a Johnny Depp or a Chris Brown, you won't be allowed in here.
I told some of my in-laws tonight, I'm going to be like Donald Trump. I'm going to build a wall around our house so you can't get out, and I want to go out without you tonight. So there's going to be a tough wall around my house tonight. And, me being Irish, the Irish ancestry, it's kind of beyond my control when it comes to drinking. It's in our DNA. It's like mother's milk to us, being Irish. So we just have to live with it.
I want to talk about a few trends that we had this year as well. Pokemon Go, the Mannequin Challenge, and the Water Bottle Challenge were the three that came to my mind. Did you have a favourite trend of 2016? Are you someone that succumbs to trends?
You're talking about the Ice Bucket Challenge for ALS?
Well, that was 2015. This year, the big ones were Pokemon Go, Mannequin Challenge, and the Water Bottle Challenge was when people would throw up full water bottles and try and get them to land on their bottom on the desk. Did you see that?
I never saw that one. I know the Pokemon. It was unbelievable. Like 4 or 5 months ago, you'd see all these idiots walking around the street talking to themselves and chasing these imaginary Pokemons. It was incredible.
Really?
All day,
you saw?
day.
I may have seen like a handful of people walking around Melbourne doing it. I didn't see many people doing it at all. But apparently, it was huge in America.
My daughter and her friends were all every day walking around the streets doing it.
So did you have a favorite trend? Are you someone that looks at trends?
I didn't care about the Pokemon thing. I never heard of the water bottle thing. What were some of the other ones?
The Mannequin Challenge? The Mannequin Challenge?
What was that?
Where people would make a video of like acting like mannequins and just standing still, and they did it at all the sporting events and everything. I
never saw that. I know there's a lot of people who put mannequins in the passenger seat in their car so they can drive in the carpool lane. I know people who do that.
My mum said she used to do that when she was younger. She had a big Pink Panther plush toy, and she used to put that in her front seat when she was driving. And people would always do a second take and have a look, and she used to drive in the carpool lane. Yeah.
It's funny. There was a woman this year who was driving in the carpool lane, and she was pulled over and given a ticket. She was by herself, but she was pregnant. So she sued and went to court and said, "I'm driving for two. I'm pregnant. It's me and the baby inside of me." And she actually won. She won her case.
Oh, wow. Only in America. Like, do you really go and sue for that? I don't think that'd happen here.
Oh no, this is sue. Everybody's suing everybody here in America. It's out of control. This is a new law I would pass if I were the president here. If you sue somebody and you lose, if it's one of these frivolous lawsuits, if you sue somebody and you lose, you've got to pay all the court costs, you've got to pay the lawyer for yourself, and you have to pay the lawyer for the other side you're suing. I think that would put a stop to it. They made a law like that.
So I'm planning on coming to America middle of October this year. Do you reckon I'll be safe if I come over for 5 weeks for a holiday?
I might sue you when you come over, so be careful. I might file the papers right now.
Just make sure my seat's warm in your studio. I promise I won't bring a hot drink in or anything.
And just remember, nobody's your friend. If they stop you on the street and they want to help you or give you a ride or give you directions to everybody. They're going to pick your pocket or do something. Just trust nobody when you're here. That's my advice.
Oh, thank you. What about you?
Well, yeah, me you can trust, but if it's somebody you don't know, there's no such thing as a nice guy. Everybody's out for something, so it'll be a pickpocket or...
You laugh, but is that a good thing? Has it always been like that?
No, and I was at my dad's day. You could walk down the street safely, and everybody would look out for each other. It's a lot different now. Which is why I'm glad we have hopefully a law and order president coming in here on January 20th, and maybe bring jobs back, and people have money in their pockets, and a good economy, and maybe make the streets a lot safer. Hopefully, because he says he's going to allow the police and allow local law enforcement to do their jobs, which they haven't been allowed to do over the last 15 or 20 years, so we'll see. Hope maybe we can safeten up the streets again.
Okay, so standout stories for 2016. Do you have a couple of stories that stand out? Maybe one mainstream, one left of center that stand out to you?
Trump win, Donald Trump winning the presidency was it's unbelievable. For somebody who's never been involved in politics before, and he just was a rich, real estate guy in New York and a reality show guy. The fact that he could hit on the pulse and the nerve center of America and win the presidency, there's never been anything like that in the history of American politics before. So that would be number one. And on the sports scene, how about the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series? 108 years since they'd won their last one in 1908, and they finally break through again this year. The celebration in Chicago was unbelievable. That means you, Alain, your father, your grandfather, or maybe your great-grandfather could have all never seen the Cubs win if you lived in Chicago. Now, finally, after 108 years, there it is.
How long had Cleveland waited for a Cavs championship?
Well, the Cavaliers had never won one before, so this was their first.
When did they come into the league?
They came into the NBA as an expansion team in 1970. The Indians hadn't won a World Series since 1948, so it was... let's see, 12, with my primitive math skills here.
70?
It'd be 52 plus
almost
16,
70 years.
68 years since the Cleveland Cavaliers, since the Indians had won one. And the city of Cleveland, the last World Championship they won was the Cleveland Browns in 1964 with the great Jim Brown, the greatest player in NFL history, leading the way. So the entire city had gone 52 years without a World Championship in any sport. So that was another drought that was broken this year by the Cavaliers.
You know what the annoying thing is going to be, though? In a year and a half, the whole world is going to have to go through another year and a half of political propaganda because another election will be a year and a half away.
Well, you mean in 4 years? You mean the next presidential election?
Well, all the campaigning it's lasted a year and a half. Like it lasted a year and a half. So fine. In 2 years, the whole world's going to have to go through that all over again for the 2020 election. Yep. Is that a bit crazy?
Then we got the midterms in 2018. So, in the middle of every presidential cycle, in the middle there, they have all the congressional and Senate and gubernatorial and the midterms where they can, a lot of change can happen then, too. So that's going to be nasty as well in 2 years. And then who knows? In 4 years, if Donald Trump doesn't keep his promises and doesn't do what he says he's going to do, he'll probably get voted out of there in 2020.
So, Dave, is that going to be a Dave Smith versus Kanye West 2020 presidential election?
That's right. He said, and Roseanne Barr said she's running too for president in 2020. So
I've never seen Roseanne Barr run for anything.
And what's funny about her is she was always really like a real radical left-wing Hollywood actress and supporting all those causes. She voted for Trump this year. So that was, nothing was making any sense this year with anybody. But, yeah, I'm going to run in 2020. I'm announcing right here on your show, Alain. And also, today I said on the air on my show, I think I'm announcing my retirement from radio and from the entertainment business because Phil Jackson and Jeannie Buss announced that they're breaking up this week. The power couple, Jeannie Buss, who owns the Los Angeles Lakers, and Phil Jackson, the greatest coach in NBA history. They've been a couple for 17 years, even though they're not married. They just broke up this week, with Jeannie out here still in L.A. running the Lakers, and Phil's in New York now running the Knicks, and they said it was a long distance and it was too hard to stay together. So I'm going to be proposing marriage to Jeannie Buss this week. So if she says yes, announcing my retirement from radio. Will be announcing my upcoming wedding, and I will also be owning the Lakers. Maybe by this time next week, I'll be the new owner of the Lakers, a married man, and retired from radio.
Wouldn't that be crazy? Like you say, Roseanne Barr. So this whole turnaround of celebrities going for presidency, do you think that's a healthy thing for the political state of the country?
Because most celebrities are idiots and don't know what they're talking about. At least they keep their mouth shut and just keep pretending to be somebody else. That's how actors make their living. So most of them are stupid. So I wish they would keep their mouth shut and not talk about politics. And I think it influences it in a bad way because when one of these dopes makes a political statement, then a lot of people who follow him, I guess, figure, well, I like this guy. He's one of my favorite actors, and then they vote the way they hear their favorite celebrity say they should vote.
Do you count Donald Trump as a celebrity or a businessman?
Well, businessman. He's a businessman first because, since, late 60s, early 70s, when he took over that construction business from his father, he's been, on the rise, and he became a billionaire. And then celebrity, from a mid-'80s on, he's been a celebrity, and everybody knew who he was, especially with the Celebrity Apprentice show. I mean, that's the one that became a phenomenon in America, too. What was that, 11, 12 years? It's the number one show here.
Now, the next thing on my list is predicted headlines for 2017. You've already given us you're going to propose to Jeannie Buss and go for presidency in 2020. Do you have a good prediction of a headline that could come true this year?
And by the way, is there a better catch anywhere than Jeannie Buss, by the way?
Alain, how old is she?
She's a billionaire. She was a Playboy centerfold back about 20 years ago. So she's beautiful enough to be a Playboy centerfold. She's a billionaire, and she owns the Lakers. I mean, what more? Check. What more would you want in a woman than that?
How old is she?
I think she's early 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, so she wasn't a Playboy centerfold like 45 years ago. That's good.
No, I think it was in the mid-'90s, about 20 years ago.
God, because her parents, her mum or her dad owned the Lakers, yeah?
Yeah, Dr. Jerry Buss, her father, bought the Lakers in 1979. And, his first move was drafting Magic Johnson, and then the Lakers wound up winning, 5 in the 80s, and then 5 more with Kareem, with Shaq and Kobe. So he won 10 world championships since 1979, one of the great owners in professional sports history. Another real estate guy, made his money in the real estate game, and great owner. Players loved him, fans loved him, and he sat back and he let his basketball people do their jobs and didn't interfere too much. So he's one of the great owners of all time. And he passed away a couple of years ago, and then Jeannie took over as the main owner, but her brother Jim runs basketball operations, and there's 4 other kids in the family as well. So there's 6 of them involved with the Lakers now.
Right. So either in sport or politics or general news, what's a headline you want to see this year? What's a headline that would really make you happy? Apart from Jeannie Buss saying yes.
Jeannie Buss. I would say San Francisco 49, my favorite team, the 49 owner sells the team and they rehire Jim Harbaugh to come back and coach again. That would be my favorite headline. It'll never happen. That's what I'd love to see.
Is it funny that Jeannie Buss took over the Lakers and now they're just going downhill?
Well, I don't. It's a tough situation now, with Kobe retiring and, and they're trying to straighten out whether Jim Buss will still be involved in all basketball operations next year. I actually have some hope this year, Alain. They had a good young group of players. They've had 2 or 3 good drafts in a row, and they started out 10-10, and they were playing well, and the bottom has fallen out since then, though. I think they lost, 14 out of their last 16, and they've had some injuries and not playing so well lately. So I like Luke Walton as the coach, and I like the good young group of players. But, as far as they're going to maybe have to hire a new guy to run basketball operations. They were talking about Phil Jackson coming back possibly after this year, but I think that's done now that they're not dating anymore.
Are you a fan of Luke Walton? Couldn't play the game for his life, but apparently he's okay as a coach. He's asked Phil Jackson for advice.
He wasn't my first choice. Kevin Ollie, the head coach at Connecticut University and a long-time NBA player, was my first choice. I think he's a great coach, but Luke, okay, he runs that, spread it out, D'Antoni, Steve Kerr type of offense. It's fun to watch. And, who's to say? Because remember last year when Steve Kerr had the back injury and didn't I don't think he coached until the All-Star break last year. And Luke Walton they started out, 26-0 or something ridiculous, and then they were like 48-2 or something off the charts when they went 73-9. So I don't know how much of that was Luke Walton. He got a lot of credit for that, but he had a darn good team and a world championship team. Like, he was handed the keys to a Ferrari, so nobody really knows how good a coach he is.
And, well, how's your show going? Have you got a couple of man card violations that you can throw at me?
Oh yeah, we give those out every day. I was giving them out today. The male cheerleaders. I don't get it. I was watching college football tonight, and the female cheerleaders we all love. Yeah, the beautiful girls out there dancing. We all love that, but I don't understand the phenomenon of the male cheerleader. My dad used to always tell me, he said, I'd rather see you in jail the rest of your life and embarrass me than be a male cheerleader. I would take that.
He'd rather see you throw a free throw underhanded than be a cheerleader.
Yeah. And these guys with the tight pants and the tight shirts and jumping up and down and waving pom-poms for other guys out there, I don't understand the concept of the male cheerleader, why anybody would want to do it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So man card violations for anyone who wants to be a male cheerleader, man card violation.
You're definitely out there, Dave. You're not scared of political correctness or anything. I like it.
Oh, I'm the least politically correct guy you'll ever meet in your life. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Oh, by the way, I went to a basketball game here, the local league, the NBL, and the Melbourne team, Melbourne United, have just hired. They've just signed Josh Boone to stand in for David Anderson, who's injured for a little while. Josh Boone, who played for the New Jersey Nets for 5 years, from like 2006 to 2010. Does that name ring a bell to you?
I remember him. Yeah, he was a bench player with the Nets. I remember him.
Yeah, he always got injured. He's playing okay for the Melbourne team, Melbourne United. He's done a few good games, but I went to his first game and I was having to go at him because he had fast breaks and he wasn't confident dunking, but he'd only had like 2 hours sleep before he landed, so maybe that was why he wasn't fully aware of where he was. But yeah, do you have good memories of Josh Boone?
Yeah, he's not a bad player. Role guy. I'm sure he'll help in the NBL. He'll be a very good player. Well, why is the NBL not more popular? People I speak with in Australia say, well, it's all the good players go to Europe or to the United States, and not a great TV contract, and they don't get really great crowds around the country. But people in Australia love basketball. There's plenty of rich people there. Why isn't it in an elite league with the top players in the world there playing in Australia like it should be, with a good television contract? And you think a professional league in Australia would be just going crazy and be really popular?
I think there's a few reasons. I think because our economy isn't as big as America's, obviously, or China's, or anywhere in Europe, so the players get paid a lot less. That's why we've got like Steve Blake coming here towards the end of his career as well. Another reason is because football, even though they don't really cross over, football and cricket are the two huge sports here. And like games are sold out. Basketball games here are sold out at the venue, but on TV, I don't know, people just don't watch it because they watch NBA and you can't compare it. And I think the NBL tries to copy the NBA a lot in terms of its entertainment value and everything around the actual game. And it's not as athletic either. The skills aren't as good as America. And obviously because America has a bigger population, that's bound to happen. But because we have so much access to American basketball, to European basketball, to college basketball here, people just can't get onto the NBL because the skills aren't as good, if that makes sense.
Now, is Brian Gordon still coaching there in the NBL?
I don't think so. I haven't heard. He might be coaching New Zealand, who's in the NBL. I saw Andre Lamanis. He's coaching the Brisbane team, and he coaches the Boomers.
Oh, I know all those Gordons. They're all from L.A., the Gordons. And
yeah.
My father went to college with Ed. My dad went to college with Ed Gordon, who was the father. And I played basketball with Greg, one of the sons, and Brian was a great player in America in high school as well. I think there's 4 or 5 brothers, and I saw Brian's been down there a long time, and I know Greg was down there for a while playing and coaching, and Ed, the father, I think he was down there helping Brian coach for a while years ago. So that Gordon family have had a lot of success here in Los Angeles in the basketball world, so it's good to see him down there.
Greg Gordon, was he the Was he the coach that coached Ben Simmons in college? There was a Gorgon, I think, that coached
no.
Ben Simmons in college.
I don't think so. Was it? I haven't heard that.
I think someone was interviewed on radio here. I think he was a Gorgon just after Ben Simmons got drafted. He was on radio doing interviews.
Oh, he might have been working. He might have been working with him, yeah, individually, yeah, because Greg Gordon is one of the greatest high school players in the history of this country. He averaged 45 points a game when he was a senior, and they only played 32 minutes in high school basketball. He was the most unstoppable, best high school player I've ever seen here. He was awesome.
So is he going to take the NBA by storm? Is he going to cancel us? Is he going to cancel out us wanting Kyrie Irving to play for the Boomers because he'll play for the Boomers?
Greg's way too old to do that anymore. But
Ben Simmons will be good.
Well, if he can shoot like Greg did, yes, Ben Simmons will be an NBA Hall of Famer if he can shoot like him. He was one of the great shooters I've ever seen playing high school basketball. And his brother Brian was really a good. They all went to the same high school, Crescenta Valley High School out here in Los Angeles, and Ed, the father, was their coach. He coached the high school team, and Brian and Greg played for him in high school. So it was fun to watch back in the day.
Before we finish up, Will Smith, who's someone I really idolize, he's my favorite Hollywood actor. He owns the Philadelphia 76ers. Will Ben Simmons finally get Will Smith a championship ring?
Not for a long time. That team's not very good. So, although Joel Embiid, he looks, the 7'2" kid, he looks like a player. As a rookie here, he looks like he's going to be really good if he can stay healthy. They got a backlog of centers right now. They got Nerlens Noel and Jahlil Okafor and Joel Embiid all playing the same position. They need to make a trade because they need to clean one or two of those guys out and get some more wing players because they're backlogged at center right now.
Who was the guy that was whinging that he wasn't getting enough minutes because he'd just come back from injury? Was that Joel Embiid?
That was Nerlens Noel. Yeah, he was complaining. He only played 8 minutes the other night. He was the first pick in the entire draft a couple of years ago coming out of Kentucky. And Jahlil Okafor was the number 3 pick, and Embiid was like a 3 or 4. They've been losing games and tanking on purpose for 4 or 5 years now to get all these picks, and they're still horrible. It hasn't helped them at all. It's amazing.
That just goes to show it doesn't help you now. So when are you on radio at the moment these days?
I will be on tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, Sunday morning. So however that translates to Australia, but I'm on at 9 a.m. Sunday Pacific Daylight Time tomorrow morning.
Don't ask me because I'm not going very well with time conversion at the moment.
That'll be some show. I might just walk in right from the New Year's party on no sleep and get on the air. So that'll be something to listen to tomorrow.
Be honest. Have you ever done a radio show hungover?
Oh, my God,
everyone's done one.
Oh, I can't even count that high. It's just like, I used to go to Las Vegas once or twice a month whenever they had a big fight there. Our radio station would always send us to Vegas for the big fights, and we'd cover them. And, there were many nights that I went straight from the blackjack table right to work in the morning on no sleep. I can't tell you how many times.
So, and Twitter, because you always post on Twitter when you're going to be on air. What's your Twitter handle? At Dave SportsGod?
At Dave SportsGod, SportsGod, G-O-D. That's the Twitter handle.
When are you getting a blue tick, Dave?
A what?
A blue tick on Twitter. When are you getting an official blue tick on Twitter?
What is a blue tick? I don't even know what that is.
That just means, all the celebrities have the blue tick next to their name. That means it's officially their account.
Oh.
When are you getting one of them?
I got to get one. As soon as Jeannie Buss and me announce our engagement next week, I'll get a blue tick.
And finally, what happens in LA for New Year's Eve? Does LA have a city centre where there's fireworks and celebrations, or does everyone just scatter and go wherever they want? Because I know Los Angeles is a big city. What happens?
Yeah, L.A. is really spread out. It's different than others. Like in New York, it's all concentrated in Manhattan, and everybody's all partying in the same place. Same with Chicago and San Francisco and Boston and these big cities. L.A. is we're really spread out all over the place. So the partying goes on over a huge amount of space here. And L.A. is a city where you have to have a car to survive. In other cities, you don't have to, but if you don't have a car here, you can't get anywhere because everything's so spread out. So, yeah, the partying is spread over probably 50 to 100 square miles here in L.A. on New Year's Eve, unlike other cities.
So there's fireworks everywhere. It's not based in one area.
Oh, no, everywhere.
Dave, it's been a pleasure.
In New York,
go on.
In New York, when the ball goes down, everybody's all in the same. Millions of people all in the same spot. It's not like that here.
Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. We'll talk to you later in the year if you get through the night. So stay safe. Have a good night. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate. And I'm sure I'll talk to you again later in the year when Donald Trump has either screwed up the world or he's being treated like a god.
We'll see how smart I am here voting for Trump and supporting him. I might look like an idiot in a couple of months, but we'll see.
You haven't looked like an idiot yet, Dave. All your predictions have been right, so don't curse yourself yet. Don't jinx yourself.
I was right. I was the only one who was right, so I'm bragging right now.
But on the other hand, you might want to get your bomb shelter prepared just in case.
And let's hope I'm not on that celebrity death list for tomorrow morning. So keep your eye out for the news.
Oh God, I'll be watching your Twitter, Dave. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Alain. All right, bye.
Bye.